our next speaker before lunch is Robert Scoble, and I'm really glad to have Robert here. In some ways, both an insider and an outsider perspective, I think, with maybe 1 foot following what's happening in the maker community, but also in many, many other communities as well. He's a startup liaison for Rackspace, and he has a book coming out. I believe it's called The Age of Context. Is that what you read? The subject of your book, and I'm really happy to have Robert here. Thank you for welcome, Robert. Thank you.
By the way, I have one of the first copies of Mark Hatch's book. He runs Tech Shop all over the United States. Great book. I was reading it for the second time on the way here. One thing that he says that I might disagree with is that virtual makers aren't as interesting as physical makers, but we can have that discussion. I started 17 months ago or so, I started noticing a new pattern, because I go around the world and interview tech startups and innovators, and people in data, and I started seeing a new pattern. And it's a pattern of 5 things actually coming together all at one time. We'll talk about this. I started seeing the number of wearable computers go up exponentially. So, this is a fatigue science sleep monitor. You've seen Nike Fuel Band, Fitbit, jog on up, da 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 da. And I just started seeing the amount of wearables going up exponentially because the cost of creating these things is going down exponentially. This is Epiphany Eyewear, which is a 1080p camera built into an eyeglass frame, which is 3D printed with a maker button and software button. This is a Basis watch that's watching your heart rate, has a little heart rate sensor. This guy runs Recon Instruments, which makes a little wearable computer for ski goggles, for Oakley's Airways ski goggles. And the other guy is building a pair of cameras into wearable computers. I started, as I went around and talked to like Autodesk, the CEO showed me this jacket that he was wearing on stage. It had an Arduino board in it with a bunch of lights. And today that board is already, a quarter the size of the board that he showed me. And Plantronics, when I went there, showed me low energy Bluetooth beacons that are just starting to become possible because they're being built into iPhone now. But these beacons are spitting an identifier into the air, like a light bulb, and as you get closer to those green things, or if you have green in those beacons or blue, you can get positioned really, really accurately. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. I started seeing a whole bunch of innovation in databases. And databases like the lifeblood of computer systems. So I started seeing all sorts of new databases, all sorts of new companies being built around data computation. We call it big data. I hate that term, but there's not a better term to describe what I was seeing, but all sorts of innovation databases. I started seeing the numbers of sensors on us, around us, in our world going up exponentially to the point where you're even buying sensors to put in your garden to watch all sorts of stuff about your plants. I started seeing the amount of social network data was going up exponentially. Twitter today has 1 billion tweets every 36 hours. In 18 months, it'll be 1 billion tweets in 18 hours, right? So it's going up exponentially. It's like a Moore's Law. And anytime you see a Moore's Law happening, there's something going on that you can build on. And the same thing is happening with location data. Foursquare started here in New York, and the amount of check-ins continues to go up, even though people think that Foursquare is not that interesting. But while Foursquare is going up, Facebook check-ins are going up exponentially, and Waze is going up exponentially, and so on and so forth. So you take these 5 things and you mix them together. I started seeing new things coming out. For people, it means we're going to get a highly personalized world. I usually have Google Glass on. If you try Google Glass, my Google Glass, it has my email, my airline tickets, my stocks, my weather, and you put it on, it's personalized, it's highly personalized. Oakley said that in the future their sunglasses are going to be personalized like that they're going to tell you what lens to put on, or they might even change the lens because they know something about you. And it also, the second thing it does for humans is make possible a new kind of system that's very anticipatory. Tries to guess what you're going to do next. Everybody in this room, it could sense that we're going to have lunch in an hour, right? Or a few minutes, right? And can start doing things. Google Now is a great example of this. It knows your next meeting and tells you the traffic is bad between you and the next meeting, so you better leave earlier, right? And for businesses, it means two things. Businesses are going to know everything about their business. And I didn't even understand when I wrote these slides how deep that was going to be, but I visited SRI, and they have a workstation that watches the user's eyes and what they do, and they can know and they track in real time everything you see and touch and do and think about. So think about having 50,000 people working on those kinds of workstations, and you're going to be able to identify why a decision got made and whether the right information was in their eyes. You can see why SRI is doing this for the government, because they want to, when you kill somebody in a drone, they want to make sure that you looked at the right information, that you understood what you were seeing, and that you processed it as a human being properly. But already we're getting there. Uber, for instance, how many people use an Uber? How old is that company? Like 2 years old, 3 years old? They got $250 million in investment. It's crazy. But Travis, who runs Uber, in his hand knows every piece of inventory, every employee, every customer, every transaction. He can know every single thing about his business in his hand. That's still pretty extraordinary for modern businesses. Most businesses don't have that. And for the second thing for businesses is we're going to know our customers in very deep detail. This is Christy Wells. She just met Paloma Faith, who's a famous music producer. She went to Facebook and clicked like on Paloma Faith. Paloma Faith can use this system called audience.fm and know her customer in a much deeper detail, to a really deep detail. We are not even close to knowing our customer. I go to the Ritz, because I live right by the Ritz in Half Moon Bay. Foursquare says I've been there 250 times. The social media team has no clue, right? Because I can tell I talk to them on Twitter, and they have no clue how many times I've been there, where I live. They have no clue. They will in 5 years. At the Ritz, there's 4 computer systems, but none of which talk to each other, right? So there's an open table computer that runs the restaurant. It doesn't talk to the spa finder computer that runs the spa, and in the future it will. By the way, those little green beacons now are coming from a Y Combinator company called Eskimos. We're going to put them in the Ritz. So you walk in with the iPhone knows you're there because the iPhone itself is a beacon, is a low energy beacon. So think about what we can do algorithmically with a crowd like this. We can be studying each other and learning a lot. It's a personalized experience based on where we are right now. A friend of mine said that's pretty interesting, but the future is based on our deeper onto than where we are. It's based on our context. The new iPhone has a 6-axis sensor that's fully on all the time, doesn't use very much battery, and it can know where we're headed. What is our context? Are we driving? Are we speeding? Are we running? Are we in a conference? Am I speaking? Are you listening? It's going to know this because of our behaviors on our devices. It's a new way to do work. I visited Harman Kardon, which makes JBL. They make the speakers in my Toyota Prius. I sat down with this guy. He showed me how he's using 3D printing to make the tones, because it can change the way audio goes through something. It changes the audio of it. He showed me how his speaker drivers run by open source. He showed me how he's using context, so he can change in real time the compression that he's doing in the speaker driver based on if you listen to classical or if you listen to Skrillex. Those are different things, and you want a different sound, and you can radically change the product itself based on our context. I think it's going to affect every product and service. I talked to GoPro's CEO, because that started 200 yards from my house, and Nick, and he said, okay, today a camera really is about capturing rid of the pixels, but in the future it's going to grab that, and it's going to grab the context. It's going to grab the tags of everybody in the room. So if I took a picture of you, it should grab all your Facebook pages and put it in the picture. It can go to a weather service and grab the weather that's in New York. It knows where we are. It knows what we're doing, and it could grab all that. Here's a startup that changes a normal pair of headphones. So it doesn't change the headphones. They put a little sensor on your headphones, which is 3D printed too. It's funny how 3D printing really has changed the world. But it has a little sensor, and it knows where your head is aiming. Just like the same way as Google Glass is. Google Glass is the first consumer electronics gadget that knows full time where I'm aiming. And Google Glass has an eye sensor too, so it knows also where I'm looking. And Larry Page has not explained how he's going to use those two sensors yet, but I have some ideas. This is an example of this. So on normal headphones, the band is in front of you, right? So the band is always in front of you. That's not normal. When you walk into a bar and there's a band playing there, the band is always in one place, no matter where you turn your head. So that's what Dysonics does. It reprocesses the video and the audio in real time based on the sensor that is on your head. So it sounds a lot more natural. You can expand the room, do all sorts of fun stuff. It really makes your headphones sound better. It's I'm seeing a whole bunch of new sensors, right? This is coming out in a month. It's called Breathometer. Costs $50. It used to, all the cops have these, right? They ask you to breathe in the sensor. The cops one was $500, so none of us have it. I can afford a $50 sensor, right? And my brother runs a bar, so he's going to buy a bunch of these and leave them on tables, and people can plug them into the iPhones and play new kinds of drinking games. Optimize his profits. And if you get too drunk or have more than 2 drinks, he'll call an Uber for you, right? Right from your iPhone, right? No driving home, right? So he'll be safer. In fact, he can now we can have people say, hey, you're too drunk, don't drive. It's a new kind of augmented reality is coming. We could spend an hour just on why this is going to come back because of wearable computers, but also the speed of the processors is getting much faster, and the camera understanding is getting better, but the context is getting better. The understanding of what you're looking at is getting a lot better, so you can augment it in a far deeper way than with layer in the past, and it doesn't get as jittery. There's a whole lot of innovation here, but you're going to see a new kind of augmented reality coming. An example of that is I had a contest for Google Glass app, and the kid built a game where aliens were flying from the ceiling, and you just look at the alien and shoot them, right? So it's mixing reality and augmentation together. It's really pretty interesting. Context is better health. We're soon going to have sensors on our skin. I've seen sensors that are being worked up at SRI that study whether you have pancreatic cancer, and can see that in less than a drop of blood. So they're already building sensors that stick a little needle underneath your skin and pull out a few blood cells to study them. If you're diabetic, you're really going to love this because it's a lot better than pricking your finger and putting it on a sensor every few hours. There's a whole lot of stuff happening with health. This studies my sleep, on and on and on. We're going to have a whole sensor package that's going to study our health in a very deep way in the future. It's a new kind of marketing. So Vintech is a company. If you say anything about wine, like I love Chardonnay on Twitter, you get put into their database. Their database has access to the Firehose feed from Twitter, and there's 1.1 million tweets a day about wine in the world, right? Already, and that number's doubled. So in 18 months, it'll be 2.2 million, right? And he can study your context. Who are you? What do you talk about? Why are you talking about wine? And on and on. So now he's putting geofences around all the wineries in the world. So if you go to Napa on vacation and you go to Sutter Home, that marks you as your context is different than if you go to Caymus. And Sutter Home is a low-end winery, Caymus is a high-end winery. So if you go to Caymus and I own Paradox, I know you were just at Caymus because you crossed the geofence and you tweeted Foursquare, whatever. And I saw that you had a great experience at Caymus, and you probably said, I love Caymus's Cabernet, right? Boom, I know something about you. When you come to my winery, I can augment your experience and let you have a better time. So that gives you a little taste of what I'm seeing. I have a whole book coming out in 8 days on this topic with 300 interviews, including I spent a lot of time at Tech Shop and seeing the future of the world. It's pretty crazy. It's a freaky future. In fact, talk about freaky. There's a whole chapter about privacy, and our privacy is going to radically change in the next 10 years. And it's a lot of fun to think about that and think about just how deeply our privacy is going to change. Because where this really is going is our computer systems are going to see inside our brain, see inside our thought pattern. Here's an example. I was speaking at the Next Web. I was wearing a sensor that watches my nervous system. So the guy standing next to me was the inventor of the sensor. It costs $200, and he said that it'll be 50 pretty quickly. He saw how nervous I was on stage, and then he came on stage and started talking to me. This was in Amsterdam. We had a nice chat. He was watching me in real time on his iPhone, right? And he started talking to me about the red light district in Amsterdam, and it spiked. I was like, you can't, if you put this sensor on me, I've given up even more of my privacy. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. I think as bakers, we really are, in many ways, living in the future and inventing and creating and making things that others will be in the hands of other people someday. And it's kind of figuring, I think, not just how to make things work, but what this context is. I would say even a moral context for a lot of these things. What do we, why are we doing this, and what do we want to do?